Call to order the school committee meeting for April, are we 13th? Sorry, it's been a long couple of days. April 13th at 7:03. Oh, and then I have to read this. So those attending tonight's meeting should be aware that the meeting is being audio and video recorded by, I can't see the whole thing, sorry. Let me see if I have an old agenda. Oh, sorry, thank you. By ASRSD. Any audience members who wish to record any part of the meeting must inform the chair, who will announce the recording. This is to comply with the Mass wiretap statute. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items may not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. So we have to do the pledge. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. A flag. I pledge allegiance
To
to
the flag,
States of
United
America,
States of America,
the
and to
republic
the republic
for which it
stands
that
of
stands
one
nation,
nation
under
nation,
God,
God,
under God,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty
with
and justice
liberty
for
and
all.
Thank you. Ms. Town, can we get the roll call, please?
Mr. DeForge,
Here.
Mrs. Granger, Mr. Leone,
Here,
Mr. Quinty,
here.
Mrs. Reshoots, Mrs. Simmons.
Here. And if you could pull the agenda up. Sorry, I did not have time to print it. It's been a crazy day. So number 4 on the agenda is the acceptance of recommendations from this superintendent search committee. Ms. Hamill, did you want to talk about that?
Yes, I will. So,
Thank you so much. It's good to see you.
good to see you too. Thank you, Cheryl. Good evening, members of the committee, Dr. Malone, Ms. Town, and members of the public. On Friday afternoon, you received a memo from myself, done in collaboration with Mr. Glenn Kuchar, who is the Mass Association of School Committee folks. He's the consultant that has been available to the search committee members throughout this process. And the memo outlines not only the number of weeks, the number of candidates, the types of questions we asked, the members of the committee, but also recommends to you 3 finalists. So I'm not going to read the memo word for word, but I will summarize it for you first. However, I would like to make the public aware of the constitution of the search committee. It really represented multiple stakeholders across the district, both communities. And those members worked diligently for over a 5-week period, included 2 of your committee members, Mr. DeForge and Mr. Leone. And I'd like you to know who the remaining members were that did this work. So we'll start with Mrs. Tara Bozek, our Director of Special Education, Ms. Jessa Brine, a middle school counselor, Ms. Susan Copeland, who is a parent in Air and also community member, and Susan also is the Air Town Clerk. I've mentioned Mr. DeForge, who is also a parent, Mr. Christopher Donovan, who is a high school English teacher, Mr. Darrell Eli, who is a parent of 2 students in the Shirley schools, Mr. Matthew Gill, who was a student representative, Mr. Edwin Dallas Neely, who represented the community, he's a middle school coach, Ms. Diane Lyons, who is a district literacy coach, works in both elementary schools in Air and Shirley, Ms. Ashley Sperling, who is a parent from Shirley, Mr. Leone I've mentioned, who's also a grandparent and a member of the school committee, Ms. Ellen Lopez, who's a student representative, Ms. Sharice Murphy, who's a parent, Ms. Elaine Niedermeyer, who's also representative of the community, a parent of a high school senior, and Mrs. Meg Saucier, who's an occupational therapist. I think if you were able to participate somehow quietly, observe what was happening in those search committee meetings, you would have been incredibly proud of our two student representatives, Matthew Gill and Ellen Lopez. And I can see Joe shaking his head. Yes, I'm sure Jonathan is as well. They were wonderful. They were mature. They crafted their own questions, and every candidate who took their questions commented on how lucky we were to have students as a part of our committee and also represent the district in such a nice way. So let me switch back over now to giving you a broad picture how we started in mid-March with a collection of 21 complete applications, narrowed that down to a list of 9 candidates that we wish to interview. The interviews were approximately 75 minutes long, 16 members of the committee. So there were a little more than 16 questions. A couple of folks on the committee asked more than one question. And I'll give you a little bit of detail about the questions in a moment, but it's important for you to know that we, as a search committee, once we went from the 21 to the 9, as of last Thursday night, after much deliberation, we unanimously voted to recommend 3 persons to you for your consideration. Margaret Crucifili-Ferrick, Dr. Margaret Crucifili-Ferrick, currently Deputy Superintendent in the Southbridge Public Schools. Dr. Adam Renda, currently Chief Intervention and Innovation Officer, Fitchburg Public Schools. Dr. Karen Zaleski, currently Director of Student Services in Hopkinton Public Schools. And I will read a brief summary of their credentials and backgrounds. Committee members, you are in receipt of the complete application package, I believe, as of Friday. Dr. Ferrick, currently the Deputy Superintendent in Southbridge, was originally a school social worker. Dr. Ferrick spent 20 years in Lowell, ultimately assuming a series of leadership positions before becoming a principal director in 2013. Since 2017, she has been Deputy Superintendent in Southbridge. She earned her undergrad degree at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, a Master of Social Work at Boston College, and a doctorate from the University of Massachusetts Lowell. Dr. Ferrick holds a current license as a superintendent of schools in Massachusetts and in Connecticut. Dr. Adam Renda, Chief Intervention and Innovation Officer, Fitchburg Public Schools. Dr. Renda has spent 20 years in the Fitchburg Public Schools, where he advanced from the classroom to assistant principal and principal positions in that district. Dr. Renda earned his bachelor's degree at Fitchburg State University, a master's degree and a certificate of advanced graduate study at Cambridge College, and a doctorate from Boston College, where he was part of the Lynch Leadership Academy Fellowship. Dr. Renda holds several Massachusetts certifications, including an active license as a superintendent of schools. And Dr. Karen Zaleski, currently Director of Student Services in Hopkinton. Dr. Zaleski has been an assistant principal, behavior specialist, and director of public services, as well as director of student services over the past 20 years. She currently oversees student services and has responsibility for, among other duties, special education. Trained initially as a mental health professional, she has a bachelor's degree in psychology from Worcester State College, a master's degree in counseling psychology from Assumption College, and a doctorate in educational leadership from Boston College. Dr. Zaleski is currently an adjunct faculty member at Anna Maria College in Paxton. She holds several current certifications in student services, principalships, and superintendent of schools. And next, I'd like to give you an idea of the questions that were posed to the candidates. Same questions were posed to each candidate that we interviewed. They were grouped under the following headings. Teaching and learning, we had a number of student-centered questions. In fact, we were proud to lead off with Ellen Lopez, our student representative, asking a question about achieving equity as the first question. Then we moved to a question regarding curriculum, I asked a question in relation to student achievement. That was a two-part question. Mr. Neely followed up with community and parent engagement in relation to student achievement. Ms. Bozak asked questions regarding special education practices, and Ms. Bryan asked questions in regard to social and emotional well-being of students and staff. That was followed by, under the header diversity and equity, 2 questions were asked here. One was in regards to diversity and tolerance, and the second in regards to recruiting a diverse staff across all schools, all positions. We then moved on to leadership and management. There was a general leadership question. There was a question in regards to management style and questions related to collective bargaining and union relations. Crisis management wrapped up that section. And then several questions on budget, district operations, and municipal relationships. Questions about extracurricular activities, questions about athletics and how to prioritize or support athletics. Questions on the merger, the regions, building relationships across the communities, budget and finance, financial planning in a regional district. And the last question, which was a powerful question to wrap up with, why our district and why now? And each candidate, again, was given 75 minutes to respond to those questions. In a few minutes, you're going to hear from Mr. Kuchar, the consultant. I believe he was going to make himself available to us around 7:30 or so to speak to the committee in regards to next steps, which were outlined in your memo. And I think I have mentioned all that I wanted to cover tonight in terms of summarizing the memo. Mr. Leone and Mr. DeForge, you both participated on the superintendent search committee. Do you have comments that you'd like to add?
I'd just like to ditto your statement about the 2 students. You know, adults, you expect adults to be good with respect to their demeanor, their questions, their whatever. These kids were absolutely amazing. They had poise. They handled themselves extremely well. And I couldn't be prouder as a member of this district to say that those are our kids. Those are the kids that are representing our school.
Yeah, so everything everyone has said so far, obviously, you know, going through the final deliberations was interesting to hear what different people picked up on throughout the course of the interviews. And, you know, at times, sometimes it can sound like 16 people on the committee was, could have been a bit much, but we all worked very well together, and the different things that people picked up on were invaluable in my opinion. There were things that I missed here and there, and people reminded me of, or there was a lot of good discussion. And, you know, like I said, I'm appreciative to everyone who gave up probably close to 20 hours, at least in meetings, never mind what they did for homework, reading through packets. So it's very, very appreciated.
To Jonathan and Joe, is there anything that you found to be materially different between the last time you served on this committee some 9 years ago and this run through? Or 6 years ago?
I'm going to defer to Jonathan on that, seeing how my brain doesn't remember accurately 9 years ago. From my recollection, it was similar.
Yeah, I think really the biggest difference was the amount of candidates we had. I don't particularly remember going through a knockdown phase at the beginning. It was more like, here's their packets and off you go. You know, doing it on Zoom was, I think, because everyone's had pretty much a year to really work through the kinks on Zoom, it went really well. But, you know, which was, you know, if I recall the first time we did it, we did a virtual meeting with one candidate who was out of state, and it didn't, for a number of reasons, didn't go well.
It was a little bit different because we were all in the room and she was on screen. It was an interesting thing being on Zoom, everyone being on Zoom. So that was an entirely different experience. But I thought it went well for that situation.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, it was the same sort of wide variety of backgrounds and wide variety of interests of why, they in their initial packets, why they were interested. Certainly we followed up with that, and Mr. Donovan's question about why ASRSD and why now elicited a great set of responses. Some better, obviously some better than others, but it was I found it a great closing question because it really let the candidate express themselves, right? But no, other than that, I think it's a wide variety of people applying, and I think that's the greatest. In some ways, that's great that we had a good selection to choose from.
I think the diversity of the committee was great because people looked at things in different ways, and when you looked at your list and you saw, okay, this guy's at the top of my list and this guy's at the next or whatever, and then you listened to other people and they picked out the reasons why they were very much in favor of a particular candidate, and it was different than the reasons that you were looking at. And I thought that the meshing of all of the different perspectives was tremendous, and 16 was not too many people because it gave us a lot of different points of view, and which was extremely helpful. And I'd also just like to add that our chair, Mary Beth Hamill, did a superb job of organizing the work and making sure that everybody's voice was heard. In true teacher style, she would call on people that she hadn't heard from to make sure that their voice was heard. And so I can't thank you enough, Mary Beth, for the job that you did in running this committee.
Thank you, Joe, for your kind words. It really, to echo what you've said, I can say with all sincerity that all 16 members listened with an open mind and an open heart. And in fact, as we're making some tough decisions, there were some folks that were influenced by things others said and may have switched to vote. I think the group as a whole worked collectively towards the same end with good effort, and at no point was anyone indicating, or by facial expression or sighing, that we were taking too long. I think we can say that the process certainly had integrity. And so I'm proud of that. I'm proud of everyone, but most especially proud of our 2 student representatives.
I think it's great that we had strong students on there. I'm very appreciative to the entire group putting the effort in. It's a time commitment, and it's not just the time commitment of the meetings, but all of the work leading up to those meetings to make sure you understand the candidates. I'm really impressed with the 3 people that are being brought forward. They all bring something different. I think it's going to be a hard choice. I really appreciate the questions. There is such a wide range of topics that you clearly touched on in each area. And the, that last question of why now, I mean, that's huge because, we've gone through a lot in the past year, but the sort of fallout of what we have been going through is going to sort of trickle into the next couple of years. And so for people that are eager to take on that challenge is is important, to look at. So, thank you for everything that all of you did. So I am feeling optimistic. I wasn't a while ago, but this is pretty good. And I see Madam Chair is here, so.
I apologize. My internet crashed. The wonderfulness of things, and my magic assistant here has me rooted through something else. I have no idea where I am. And I would like to thank the whole committee and Mary Beth. I knew this was and I'm sorry, I should probably say Mrs. Hamill, to give her the honor that she deserves. But Mary Beth did a fantastic job. I sat in on the first 2 meetings, and it was just awesome the way everybody was responding, and everybody was equally responding. So the rest of the meetings were executive sessions, and I appreciate for all the work. So thank you everybody for the committee. I know we all share the same sentiment, and except the double duty that we pulled on Jonathan and Joe. I don't think anybody knew quite what they were getting into when they got on this. 21 applications is a great pool to pull from. So I think we were lucky in that way. And certainly gave probably some good comparisons and contrasts to people. So Mary Beth, thank you so much for taking this on. I'm tempted to tell this story because Mary Beth, I had seen her in action before, and so I knew how good she was. So I called her up and I said, Mary Beth, would you do the search committee? She says, no. She says, but we need this and we need that and we need this, we need that. I said, you just talked yourself into it. Thank you. So she was right in her first statement because she's been super, super helpful before. Mary Beth, thank you. Thank you, and everybody who was on the committee. High five to all of you. We have Glenn Kuchar here, who is the Executive Director of Massachusetts Association of School Committees. Thank you for coming, Glenn. If I can share, Glenn has had Zoom meetings all day, so if he's not Zoomed out now, I'll be very surprised. I guess I think we need to know what the next steps are, Glenn. Where do we go from here? We have 3 wonderful candidates, and what would we do next?
The next steps are to work with the candidates to arrange for school committee members to be visiting their districts, to arrange for some interviews so that you can view them, talk to them, Zoom with them, however it would be. And then to have the candidates invited to Air Shirley to spend a day. We would recommend to spend a day meeting with different stakeholders and stakeholder groups where you might set up meeting with the faculty, a meeting with the community, and then possibly scheduling an interview with the school committee on the same night, or scheduling the interviews concurrently on one particular day, or spreading them out over 2 or 3 nights. And then we can work with you on the calling and the referencing that needs to be done at this stage.
Okay. Do you think we can do anything successfully? All the site visits would now be virtual? Is that the way people are doing it?
Well, I'd leave that up to you. I don't know what's going to be permitted. I do think that if you wanted to, I think it would be possible, if it were permitted, to conduct live interviews with the final candidates. It probably would be more productive to have the candidates meet the faculty and the stakeholders and the students, possibly in a Zoom format.
Okay.
And we need to figure out when to get that scheduled. So I guess what would be most helpful, since there's likely to be no physical traveling back and forth, it would probably be helpful to identify the school committee members who would be willing to participate in those interviews with with others. We can ask the candidates to set up Zoom meetings for the visits to their districts. And then you can set up a series of meetings where you think they should take place in here, Shirley. We can figure out a time to actually do that scheduling, but we need to do it fairly quickly because you don't want to lose valuable time if you'd like to have these decisions expedited.
Does anybody have anything else to say on that? I
Well-
know, do you think that any of this feasibly could be done during the spring vacation, or is everybody going off to Aruba?
Well, I think at least like the candidates meeting, like our faculty and some of our stakeholders that weren't, for the example, meeting our faculty members, I think we should look at doing that in person. All the people here are, in the school system, so everybody here should be actively vaccinated. We'd certainly take out the spacing things, and I think, what our site visits to other places, I'm okay with just, looking around and doing some Zoom meetings with people in their districts, because, I'm not fully vaccinated yet. I've only had one shot, and I don't know what everybody else's status is, but I think it's very important that the candidates meet with, administrators and teachers in our district in person, however that looks up. But I think that's something we should strive to do. I think that personal contact is going to be very important at this stage.
So we could mix back and forth the virtual site meetings with them, and then the visits there. I would think it'd be important if they're going to work here for them to see the
Yes.
facilities and the
Let me
campus.
suggest this to you. Is it reasonable to think that the school committee could conduct its interviews with the candidates the last week in April?
Yes.
Is that something that can be done during April vacation, or is that not,
Well, that's next week, so I think that would be hard.
is that hard to pull together? Okay.
Yeah, but I think we want interviews by the last week in April. So
Yeah.
It's Zoom. If it's Zooming, it's not hard to put it together if people are not going away. And frankly, I don't know that people are going away, but even if they're going away, the people that you'd want to talk to could make themselves available.
My only concern with that is if our teachers are, they're on vacation. So I wouldn't want to, have an opportunity to meet teachers when they're supposed to be on vacation, right? So they're not in our buildings next week. So I wouldn't want to make any staff feel like they need to attend something on their vacation.
Well, can we do this? Can we find out from the school committee members when they are available the week of the 18th and the 25th? And then from there, we can work with the candidates to see who can set up visits to the reference persons, and then for the candidates with the Air Shirley people. Is there?
So if everybody would just designate, raise a hand or whatever, if they're available those 2 weeks, the 18th and the 25th, and you're not going away.
Not going anywhere, unfortunately. Even though my mother lives in Florida and I could get on a plane and go see her, it's not what I'm doing.
At least you
Okay,
got better. That's good.
so Glenn, it looks like we certainly have a proper number to do that.
Yeah, I could be unavailable the 18th, the week, vacation week. I might be going away, but I could probably be available if it's an evening interview.
So can I just throw a suggestion out there?
Please, Jonathan.
For the week of school vacation, if we can we do our interviews with them via Zoom? And then schedule them for, if this works within the district, one like 26, 27, 28.
Right.
To be here and doing a site visit with us and a site and meeting faculty and staff after school, or however want it to be done. Because don't forget, I'm done the 4th.
Yes, we know. That's why we're doing this, Jonathan.
I know, but I just don't want to back everything into too far into the week of the 26th through the 30th. That's all I'm trying to get at. So I'm thinking if we can
So
do,
if we can find out if they are free during vacation week, we certainly could do some virtual site visits with them perhaps. Since it's all on Zoom, it changes it so much. So
Let me see if
So-
I understood. Is Jonathan suggesting that the Air Shirley School Committee could conduct its interviews with the candidates on the 26th, 27th, and 28th?
and then we could vote on the 29th.
If we could do site visits school vacation week, like virtually, if they're available for that. Because we'd have to get those in too.
Right.
So site visits will be virtual for sure.
I think they're gonna probably, for the simple reason, the schools are probably semi-closed.
Well, it
That's right.
probably would depend on them too, because it's their school vacation week. So depending on
Right.
how their district feels about it, they could either be virtual or in person, and depending on how, if we have enough members that feel comfortable going. So I suppose that could be up to them one way or the other for next week, because students won't be on campus next week.
Right.
When do you think it's possible at all? So we're sitting here on the 13th of April. Is it possible at all that maybe we could even do maybe 1 or 2 site visits the 15th, 16th? If they are agreeable to that?
Well, I think we could ask the candidates to set up during April vacation a series of interviews with key people
Mhm.
to be available for you to interview on the week of next week.
That sounds good.
We'll see if they, wait a minute. And if we do that, maybe, would you like me to ask them to set up, a couple of panels whereby you could talk to, 2 or 3 people at a time?
Absolutely.
Well, that's what we've done on previous site visits is the candidate has set up, of course, they were not virtual, but the panels, the candidate set up a panel and then we were free to ask them any questions or they could make any kind of statements they wanted.
Okay, so that they could set up the panels and then during the week of February vacation, during April vacation, you would be able to see the people in the sending districts.
Mhm.
And then the following week, we could invite the candidates to spend a day in Air Shirley meeting with different constituencies and then interviewing in the evening.
Mhm.
That sounds good.
Right,
Yeah.
what time in the evening for the final interview?
Well, since they're doing it from home, 7 o'clock is usually a pretty good meeting time. Does that work for your schedule, Glenn? Does that work in your schedule for those 3 days?
Yeah.
26, 27, 28?
So can I just ask a question?
Please.
Are they meeting virtually with our group, or are they coming into our building?
I think if they can come in, that would be a priority to me. I mean,
Right, so if that's the
you
case,
kind of need to see the place where you're going to be a potential leader.
and if that's the case, then wouldn't we want to do in-person interviews instead of Zoom since they're here?
Yeah, I think that the final interviews with the school committee have to be in person. I understand there's some spacing issues, but if we had to set it up in the gym to do the spacing, I think they have to be physically in front of us for the interview.
Mary, does this sound feasible?
Yes, Joyce, we can do whatever you need to do. So obviously we can manage setting up for the school committee and the candidates. I'm just not sure how many public participants you would like to invite in. Certainly they could be live streamed in and we can set that up as well. So whatever, the committee wants and whatever Glenn recommends.
I wonder if we could do a combination of, for example,
Yeah.
meeting the central office live, meeting our administrators, possibly doing a live meeting with the teachers after school. I just don't know what the public health people are going to allow.
Right.
Joyce, one
Could
thing
have-
that's,
You could have live meetings with some of the school leaders, including the superintendent, in a socially distanced mode live, and then do maybe a Zoom meeting with teachers and community.
In the afternoon before the interviews.
Yeah.
And if we do in-person interviews, so then do we set up Zoom for the public attendees? Or you say live streaming, Mary?
Yeah, yes. So so typically, and Glenn, I'm not sure how it works, but typically the candidate might interact with the public prior to the interview with the school committee. And then I think once the candidate begins the interview with the school committee, then there's no further public participation. Is that accurate, Mr. Kuchar?
Correct.
Okay, so we could meet they could meet central office in person. We had a meeting today in person. I can make that arrangement, certainly. They could, we could Zoom with the teachers, because now you have there might be a lot of teachers that want to come on and meet the potential, next superintendent. We could, and then I think for the interview, certainly you can hold the interview in person. We can arrange that. And then the public piece, you could have people Zoom in, and or you could set a number. So say you had it, in the auditorium at the middle school, for example. How many would we allow in? And then the rest would have to live stream in if they wanted to be part of the, the public, like, reception, if you will, prior to your interview. Not taking over for you, Mr. Cooch. I'm just trying to help them with the logistics.
Well, no, I think it's good that we hear this brainstorming, so we all kind
Yeah, sure.
of understand it. So, and so Glenn, generally, let's say that this does work and we have the candidate here to tour the schools. Does one of the school committee people generally guide the person from point A to point B?
Probably.
We just turn them loose, say, here's a map, have fun.
Can I suggest this? Is it possible that maybe tomorrow morning we could have a conversation, Madam Chair, with the superintendent and the board secretary to sort of lay out a draft schedule, and then we can make that work, because we know the school committee members are going to be available.
So so does anybody have anything that bothers them about this scenario?
So the only other thing to remember is we have a fields presentation on the 28th. Is that correct, Dr. Malone?
Yes,
So
What time is that, Jonathan?
6:30.
So
Joyce, I have one concern is that I found in the last two superintendent issues, the candidates always met with like groups of teachers and administrators and townspeople, that sort of stuff. And there was always a space between that and the school committee interview. And I thought that it was very helpful to me to talk to certain people that were at those meetings to get their take on the individual candidates before they sat before the school committee. And if we try to compress
Are
the
you talking
schedule.
about that, you personally doing that?
Yeah, well,
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
I think I wasn't the only school committee member doing that too. I think, if they're gonna meet with the teachers and they're gonna meet with the administrators, they're gonna meet with people, and who are at the meetings, it was helpful to me to get feedback from those people on their opinions of the candidates. And if we go to a compressed schedule where they're going to be doing that and interviewing with us on the same day, that does not allow that to happen.
Yeah, but sometime we have to take them to dinner, you know, I mean, we're not gonna let them starve to death and be fainting during the interview, so there are breaks in there.
No, I mean, for me to talk to the people who so suppose one of the candidates meets with a group of teachers for an hour or whatever it is. Typically, I would, you know, over the next couple of days, I would talk to some of the teachers that were there that I was, you know, that I knew, to get their reflections on the candidates themselves. And that would help me target areas when it came to the interviews in front of the committee.
Madam Chair, if I may, I think
Yeah.
Mr. Kuch's suggestion to meet with him in the morning with Michelle Town to draft a schedule and then get it right out to the school committee, I think that would, that works for me.
And
And
Jim, there were educators who did interview these candidates already. So if that helps you somehow,
Not really, no.
okay, all right. Anybody else? But we're all clear for the dates and everything, so we can make it work.
Yeah, I probably won't be available afternoons on the 26th, 27th, 28th. Baseball starts and I'll be coaching the middle school kids.
Yeah, but our interviews would be the evening, would be
Right, but I wouldn't be available if they did, if they came to visit to, you know, tour them around during those hours. That's all.
Well, that's the advantage of having 6 people on the committee.
Yeah.
We can see what we can do. Certainly it's just a guide. It's not anything else. So we all can do it. We can trade off. We can do whatever we want. So I think we can make this come together because, you know, sometimes it's good news with COVID. Yes, we're not going anywhere. We're all here. And that wouldn't be the normal thing. So if I speak with Glenn and work it out with Dr. Malone tomorrow, and I'll get back to everybody. What's tomorrow, the 14th? I will get back to everybody tomorrow and run it by you again. Does that work?
Yep.
That's
Okay.
fine.
All right. Anybody else kicking in?
And the only other thing I would just say is remember the 19th state holiday too. That knocks
No
out-
one goes anywhere. The 22nd is also Earth Day, you know. Patriots Day, is there any parades or anything, Jonathan?
Oh, there's no marathon this year.
There's no marathon.
There's no marathon this year.
Yeah,
But
some of us
just-
will be running virtual marathons though, probably.
Oh,
You're going to be running virtual marathons, Joe? Good for you.
I'm gonna sit in my chair and watch a marathon for 4 hours. Yeah,
make sure you hydrate.
virtual.
Make sure you hydrate. Don't forget hydrate.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Is it good to leave it at that point? I don't want to keep beating it, but it sounds like we have a plan. And again, I really want to thank Mary Beth for leading the search committee. Mary Beth, that was awesome. I don't think we're going to have Mary Beth with us for the next 10 years, and that's unfortunate. But she'll probably want to do something like retire or something silly like that. But anyway, thank you all. And that's the only business we have before tonight's meeting. So thank you for coming, and I will get all the information to you no later than Thursday morning.
Joyce, before
Anybody
you,
else? Glenn, I can't hear you.
before you close the meeting, can you give me some idea of what time you'd be available to talk tomorrow?
Anytime after 9 o'clock.
Does that work for the superintendent?
yes. So do you want to set a time, 9 o'clock?
9:30, whatever you want. What's your schedule, Glenn? You probably have a bigger schedule than any of us.
Talk would be really good tomorrow morning.
Okay, sounds good.
And you want to do it with a Zoom call?
I might come to the office with Mary and then we can go from there to you. Does that sound easier?
Yeah, we can do a Zoom call, Mr. Kuchar, and we'll send you the link in the morning.
If you send me the link, that would be great. And I
Okay.
look forward to that and link on at 9 o'clock and we'll try to get it all done.
Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you all very much.
Well,
It is-
I have a couple questions.
I have somebody. making
It's
noise.
Jonathan.
Thanks,
Sorry.
Jonathan. Go ahead.
No, I just was gonna, are we expecting to get a list of questions from MASC on what we're asking? And then
Oh,
my
thank you, Jonathan.
follow-up to that was gonna be, for those of you who sat in on the last interviews done by the school committee, how many questions were asked and what topics, and just sort of how long did it approximately last?
I
Yeah,
can
this-
answer that, Mr. DeForge.
There you go.
Yeah,
Someone
Nobody
remembers.
remembers.
You were
It
there.
was 2.5 hours.
Was it really?
Yes, it was very long.
Oh, wow.
Would,
Well, you have to prove that you can stick with it, you know. That's
yeah,
the
how
reason.
do you want to handle the interview questions? Do you want me to sort of share a question guide with the school committee members and ask you to identify questions ahead of time, or do you want us to prepare a model interview, or just for the purpose of discussion, or you get everything to us and we'll collate it and aggregate it for you? How do you want to deal with it?
Does that work?
Well, can we have our own, can we suggest our own questions that we'd like to ask? Because
Absolutely. It's not unusual for school committee members to prepare, maybe a couple of questions apiece and to bring them to the interview.
Right.
Sometimes we're
but-
scripted, sometimes they're scripted, sometimes they're not.
Right, and a lot of times, one of the applicants' answers will lead you down a road that you really need to go down. There'll be an opening that
So
you
you
have
follow up.
to explore, right?
Well, you should
Yeah, I
make
just
most
want
of them
group of
open-ended, right? Because we know all their credentials and everything and their histories.
Can I suggest that you get your preferences for how you want to gather the questions to the chair? And then we will provide whatever assistance you need in either leaving it up to you or letting you bring your own questions, or if any members of the school committee want guidance in developing questions, we can assist you personally in drafting those questions themselves.
If I may
Dennis?
just ask, yes, to please send to that group of questions, because I don't know where to start, so.
I think we'd all like that, Glenn, some kind of outline. I think it's tricky because isn't there kind of a feeling that you want to kind of ask the same question of everybody and not just go off into
Well,
cowboy land?
they should be fairly similar, but some candidates will have different backgrounds and you may want to probe different elements of it. So we need a combination of both. We can prepare some model questions for the school committee to use if you like, and then the school committee members can be free to come up with their own questions.
so I like what Jim suggested, that because sometimes when they answer a question, and this happened, during the search, like they would answer things and I would be sitting here wanting to ask a follow-up question on what they said. So the general question, they can be all the same, but you might go different direction based on how they answered it. And because that might pose, in your mind, a follow-up question. So, so that's what I was thinking. I want to, will we have the freedom to ask a follow-up question that may not have been written down on paper before we started?
Absolutely.
Many times you do have another question and you're just like, you're right. They open up something that makes you want to know more about what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But keeping it pretty open-ended so they can express themselves is, no, not yes and no questions, but more like expansion questions. But Glenn, if you have some good ideas, if you want to,
We can talk about this tomorrow morning and get
okay, all right. And if anybody has questions that they want to submit or they want to ask about, if you send them into the office, we can collate them and get them to Glenn and maybe put them in some kind of order. So
Joyce,
they're not-
does everyone have the questions that the search committee asked?
Yes, by the way, thank you, Joe. I meant to thank you for that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't know if everyone got those though. I just, yeah.
Everybody get, Joe sent everybody the questions that they.
No, I sent them to you.
Oh, I'm
they
sorry, I thought
suggested-
you sent to everybody. Okay. I'll
No,
send
they
it out.
suggested I send them to you and then you disperse them. I didn't know, the protocol on all of that. So,
Okay, it's just a
the
question, so we
committee-
can talk about it.
The search committee questions are public, and we attach them to the report of the search committee.
okay,
Right.
so everyone should have them now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Everyone have
That's
them?
right.
Have
Yep.
them?
There you go. Joyce,
Okay.
I'd just like to say that, I view our role is a little different than what the search committee had to do.
Of
Right now,
course.
the search committee, they've done their job and they've given us 3 qualified candidates. All 3 of these people have the backgrounds, education, and experience to operate as a superintendent. Our job now becomes to try to find out which one of these 3 people, if any, are the fit that we're looking for our district. Not that, I mean, we had candidates on the first interview when we selected Karl Mock that ended up going to neighboring districts, and are still there and are still very successful. So all these 3 candidates are strong candidates and have been fully vetted. So now we have to try to tailor what we're doing to try to find out for what we think the district needs next, who is the best fit for right now. And I think Mrs. Granger said it best. On our last 2 searches, we ended up with the exact right person at the exact right time. Karl Mock and Dr. Malone are very different people, and thank goodness we had them at the times that we had them. So that's our job moving forward, as I see it.
No, I was just thinking, Jim, that if we knew what the search committee had asked, then we would have an idea and maybe not even repeat some of those. It just was a guide. It wasn't
Right,
to be the questions.
for
Okay,
sure, for sure.
all right. Anybody else? Okay, so I will.
Joy, just real
yes.
quick, Joyce, sorry.
Sure, please.
Should we be sending you any questions we may want the group to consider, or do we send it to Michelle?
Probably easiest to send it to Michelle and I can
Okay.
get them from her. Then it's
Okay.
just central. What do you think, Jonathan? You're looking like you're thoughtful.
And Joyce, the administrative administrative person for the school committee and the superintendent should probably be joining us in the call tomorrow.
Yeah, that's Michelle Town.
Michelle, right?
Right.
She's
Okay.
been very helpful.
Any other questions or comments? So, no, this is, we want to do it right.
Sorry, so I couldn't catch the unmute button fast enough. So what are we going to be discussing Thursday night then?
Actually, we probably don't have anything to discuss Thursday night unless you want to hammer questions and throw them back and forth and maybe throw some out or see which ones are double, or I'm not sure we needed it. I just left it open so that in case we needed to continue Thursday night, we could. Just getting it posted, it's very easy to cancel it.
Well,
What's everybody think?
I don't really feel the need for the Thursday night meeting. I
Okay,
think we can work for you and get pretty close to where we need to be.
all right. So we'll go back and forth with some communication and
Unless George, you say that may change depending on what happens in your meeting tomorrow morning between Glenn and Dr. Malone and Jonathan, because we may want to take a look at that schedule on paper since we're on a compressed schedule to try to make sure that that's going to be a go.
okay.
That makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Because we
Agreed.
can cancel the meeting like 5 minutes before. It's no big deal to cancel it, but leaving it posted, I don't think is a bad thing.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I put that in there just so that we would have that option if we needed it.
Why don't we get together Thursday night to go over whatever you guys come up with?
We can do that.
We can finalize the schedule.
We can
Yep.
do that. I would make that 7 o'clock on Zoom. I apologize. My whole internet failed as I tried to log on. So maybe that won't happen again. Anyone else? I don't see anyone anxiously jumping up and down. So if someone make a motion to adjourn,
I'll make a motion to adjourn at, what time is it? 7:57.
7:57.
Second.
Thank you, Mary Beth, for coming. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Glenn. We
Everybody.
appreciate all the help. Thank you, Michelle Town.
Night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
We didn't vote to adjourn.
Oh, thank you. I'm not tired. Is there a motion and a second? I would call a vote to adjourn if there was a second.
It was motioned and seconded, yes.
Thank you. All in favor? Michelle Town, could you please call the roll?
Mr. DeForge,
Aye.
Mrs. Granger, Mr. Leone,
Aye.
Mr. Quinty,
Mr. Quinty?
Quinty? He's frozen.
Quinty, are you voting?
Oh, he just got booted. Mrs.
Okay.
Reshoots,
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Good.
Thank
We're
you.
good. All right,
Thanks,
good night.
everybody.